I knew that it wasn't really me, because when I came out of a girls' school, I actually felt a bit awkward to speak to boys. I didn't really know how to communicate with them. For my college days, I actually had good friends that would, advise me what to do, what not to do, but I was stubborn, I was hard-headed, so there was a lot of things that they would tell me and I was like, I know what I'm doing. And that's until I ended up pregnant at 16. I never finished my second year of college. My mum said to me, her last words were, don't come back pregnant, because I think she was trying to protect me from that kind of lifestyle. And I left. I told my god sister first, and I always remember she said to me, don't make your decision on what you're going to do with this child based on what you think everyone else is going to think. Do what you want to do based on what you want to do, because I'll be real, I was considering abortion and all those things. I had booked the appointment for the abortion the day after my birthday, and I never went through with it. The father of my son, he already said that he didn't want to have this baby. So yeah, that was his first thing. So when I said that I'm not going to go for the abortion, he was kind of shocked. He was like, why? The day that I gave birth, I found out that he was cheating on me in my hospital bed. And to be honest, that was the good side of the pregnancy, to be honest with you, because after that, everything went down. They also wanted to remove my appendix, which I specifically remember saying to the people, if my appendix is fine, please leave it in me. And I woke up and I just saw lights, and I just woke up in a panic. I was like, and I just started screaming, where's my mum, where's my mum, where's my mum? I didn't have appendicitis, but they still removed my appendix. Black people have always been used as a, almost a project, something for practice.
Hello guys, and welcome back again to another amazing episode, and this is the Diaspora transition episode. As you guys already know, we speak with Diaspora who decided to leave the Diaspora, being the UK, US, Canada, and currently living here on the continent, Ghana. And we have a dialogue with them. We asked them why they decided to come to Ghana, and the reason why, what triggered their moving, and even their experience living here on the continent. So today we do have here someone very special. She's been on the show once with her husband, twice, if you're watching this now. And they moved from the UK together with her husband and their kids. She have a story to share. It's going to be a very deep conversation. So I'll let her introduce herself. So without further ado, Jada, welcome back again on the show.
Thank you.
And people are watching you for the first time. They've not seen you before. Briefly introduce yourself for the audience for the first time.
Hi everyone, my name's Jada. I'm 23. I moved from the UK to Ghana in April this year, 2023. And now I spend my days content creating, documenting my life off-grid in Sahum with my children. And that's about it.
Good morning everyone. I'm looking all kinds of crazy, but that's because it's the morning and I just woke up. But I thought I'd give you guys some content from real early this morning so you can really get to term. Sorry, I'm just making sure nothing is crawling up my legs. Cornmeal porridge. Yeah, see me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, in the beginning when you arrived, I had a conversation with you together with your husband. And we had some comments down there. People were saying, how are you able to have 2 kids at this young age? I want us to really go back to the beginning of your story, okay? I feel like there's so many questions there that people want answers to. So let's just dive into it. Let's go back a little bit. Okay. Life in your early stage growing up in the UK.
Well, growing up, I think I'd had a great childhood, to be honest with you. Nothing to really complain about. I did move around a bit. We went from a place called Ladbroke Grove, West London, to North London. And North London was quite diverse. I spoke about that briefly in our last video. And then we went to Hillingdon, which is where I had my child. And I did secondary school there, high school. And to be honest, I wouldn't even say I was a bad child or anything. I was quite a good child, done my education, all of those things. It's only when I got to college that I got exposed to, I don't know how to explain it, but just a different side.
Let's dive into the different side. What were you exposed to?
So I went to a girls' school for secondary school. So when I went to college, there was a slight change. I was surrounded by not only girls, but boys too. So I was seeing different things. The area that I was in South London. So there's a lot of things going on. Like I was just exposed to what teenagers are doing that I wasn't doing. So yeah, that's it really. I don't think it really changed me, but I did feel pressure to almost keep up with that kind of crowd.
To keep up, let's put that in context. Give me an example of what teenagers were doing.
Okay, so girls were out wearing clothes that were quite revealing, talking to boys in, those kind of ways. I wouldn't say like getting into anything sexually because that came later, but that's what girls were doing. And those kind of things, I don't know, I felt a pressure to kind of keep up with that. So the way I was dressing, I was just trying to keep up with the crowd, trying to be trendy, trying to fit in with people, talking to different, boys that would approach me. And if I'm being honest, I feel like sometimes I soaked up the attention because it wasn't what I was used to, especially coming from a girls' school. But on the opposite side of the spectrum, I knew that it wasn't really me, because when I came out of a girls' school, I actually felt a bit awkward to speak to boys. I didn't really know how to communicate with them. So I do feel like a combination of that, I didn't really know what I was doing. I was just doing it. I was going with the flow, That's really it though. Like for my college days, I actually had good friends that would, advise me what to do, what not to do. But I was stubborn, I was hard-headed. So there was a lot of things that they would tell me and I was like, I know what I'm doing. And that's until I ended up pregnant at 16.
16?
Yeah.
You were still in the university?
I was in my first year of college. It was the end of college, and I found out I was pregnant. I never finished my second year of college. I did eventually, but I found out I was pregnant in the first year, towards the end, and that was, I can't even remember when, but it was around that time.
16 years old. I don't know. I mean, for me, I don't know what it is in the UK for ladies to become of age, right? Is it 16 or 18?
The legal age is 16.
16.
I don't think it should be.
So okay. But in Ghana, it's 18, right?
Oh, okay.
Now how did your family, friends react when this information came to her?
So parents-wise, my dad was not impressed. He was quite disappointed in me. I quite clearly remember him just being like, why? What happened? Is this what I taught you kind of vibe? But nevertheless, he was supportive, but I could feel how disappointed he was in me. Because in my family, I was seen as innocent, the child that's going to school, gonna go to uni kind of thing. So when that happened, I know he didn't even know what to say, he was speechless. My mum, she was more supportive in that sense. Not to say that my dad wasn't, but my mum was 17 and pregnant herself. So
she kind of understood.
She understood, and she knew that, well, actually, there's not really much I can do at this point. So she was just, she didn't shout at me. She was just like, well, this is the and actually, I moved out of my mum's house at 16 or 15. And my mum said to me, her last words were, don't come back pregnant, because I think she was trying to protect me from that kind of lifestyle. And I left, I went to live with my nan. My nan had her own life. So when I was going to college and stuff, she didn't know what I was getting up to. She didn't know what I was doing. None of them did, to be honest with you. And so it came as a disappointment to all of them, to be honest with you. It really did. But I told my god sister first, and I always remember she said to me, don't make your decision on what you're going to do with this child based on what you think everyone else is going to think. Do what you want to do based on what you want to do. Because I'll be real, I was considering abortion and all those things.
Really?
But I considered it because of what everyone else would think. I felt ashamed at the time. I was like, okay, I'm going to be the second person in my year group to have got pregnant. So I was like, okay, can I really handle this? But I had booked the appointment for the abortion the day after my birthday, and I never went through with it.
Wow.
Yeah, I never went through with it.
Describe the scenario. What made you not go through with it?
I think so. I had gone for a scan to just double check that that is what it is, and I saw that, there's a baby in there. I also knew that this is the consequence of my actions. No matter how old I am, I put myself in that position. So I said to myself, can I really do that without regretting it for the rest of my life? And so I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. And then what my god sister said to me was just in the back of my head, don't make a decision based on what other people think. Until this day, it's one of the best decisions I made because I have a 5-year-old son from it, and he's amazing. He's a joy to me.
This is a beautiful story.
Yeah.
Now, you know, you said something like your mom, you left home at 15 years old.
Yeah.
Now, if your mom tried to hold you down to still stay with her, would you have felt happier or tied down?
Do you know what? It wasn't like, the reason I left is because my mum was trying to hold me to responsibilities that I thought I was too grown for. I thought I was a big woman. That's just the truth of it.
Really?
So,
at 15 years old?
Yeah, and I feel like that's what the UK encourages children of our age to think, that we have a mind of our own, that we can make decisions that we know best for ourselves. And I think there's situations in which children do know things that are best for themselves, but we're still children at the end of the day. Our parents still have a duty to care for us, and that's all my mum was trying to do. So when I left, I was working and she wanted me to pay rent and stuff, and I was like, but why can't I spend my own money on what I want to spend my own money on? Why have I got to pay rent? It's a selfish way of thinking, but that's how I was thinking. I just wanted to spend all the money that I was making, but now that I'm this age, I can see, well, actually, if I was paying half the rent, it might have taught me good money management skills. These are things that now I'm like, oh.
But it made you had animosity towards her for trying to...
Yeah, it did. And I get what she was doing now, but at that age, I think teenagers and their mums, they clash because your mum's been through all the mistakes. She's been there. My mum's been 17 and pregnant. She knows what that comes with. And she knows how you get to that point. But I think she just got to the point where she's like, you know what, do your thing. You know what I mean? And see where it ends you up, and I end up pregnant.
Pregnant now, you're 16 years old.
Yeah.
Your mom said this, your dad felt this way, your friend said this. What was going through your mind at that time, even after you decided to keep the pregnancy, and that moving forward till the day you had to, you know, give birth?
So I was actually very worried for multiple reasons. The father of my son, he already said that he didn't want to have this baby. So
really?
Yeah, that was his first thing. So when I said that I'm not going to go for the abortion, he was kind of shocked. He was like, why, kind of thing. But nevertheless, he kind of accepted that it's going to happen. We was together, but it was a very toxic relationship. So there was multiple cheating and all of that stuff. To be honest, I didn't believe I should have been in a relationship at that point, but because I was in that situation, I was like, okay, let's see if we can make it work. So I felt very unstable. I didn't know like how this was going to happen. I was worried, am I going to be a good mum? How do I be a mum? All the things that go through your mind, giving birth, is it going to be painful? Even things like I went back to see my old school teachers at high school, and I was finding out that people had delivered the news to my old teachers before I had, that, oh, Jada's pregnant, like it was just a joke or a rumor going around. So those kind of things, if I'm honest, I tried to hide my pregnancy for a good 3 to 6 months.
Really?
Yeah.
How were you hiding it?
I was wearing big coats, wearing baggy t-shirts, not going out very much. I was just trying to avoid people seeing me at all costs because I was ashamed of what had happened.
This is very interesting and then deep in a way, and it's really, I'm learning a lot. Okay, let's go through. You had an encounter with the NHS, right? Let's walk through that process a little bit. Let's go back in time, right? Prior to the days you were about to deliver your child, and in the day at a hospital. Walk me through that moment. So,
I remember I started feeling pains in December. That's when he was due. So yeah, the pains were coming on. Christmas Eve, I was like, okay, this is labor. I can feel it. It's coming on. We went to the hospital. They said, nope, you're only 1 centimeter dilated. Go home. I went home. The next day was Christmas Day. Waters broke all over the sofa. Wow. And I was like, okay, it has to be time now. We went back to the hospital and they had taken me in. Up until that point, I had no problem with the NHS. They were fine. They saw me to every appointment. I think they saw to me even more because of my age as well. So they was making sure everything was okay. No problems with them then. Gave birth. the build up to giving birth, I was about 4 centimeters dilated, and they didn't really have any progression. They said there was no progression. So they were like, okay, it's time for an emergency C-section. It's time for an emergency C-section. At the time, I didn't know my rights. I didn't know anything about home births. I didn't know anything about, the procedure of giving birth. So I was just like, okay, I guess I'm going in for emergency C-section. I didn't question why. My mum was there and she did advocate for me, but my mum's had C-sections as well. So I think
Were they trying to force you to have a C-section?
They said it was an emergency and we had to go in. If I didn't go in now, I'm going to affect the breathing of the baby and all these things. So 17-year-old me, I was like, okay, let's go. You know what I mean?
You came in and they told you you are not ready yet.
Yes, so they came in, they told me I wasn't ready yet. I progressed for a couple hours. They put antibiotics in me to speed up the labor. All these things that now I believe should not happen. Labor is meant to be natural. You let it happen itself unless it really needs medical intervention. So yeah, they sped up the process of the labor, which I believe contributed to why I went into C-section. During the C-section, they tried to do it awake. I could feel them cutting on my right side. So I said, please, please put me to sleep. I can feel the pain on my right side.
Wow.
So they put me to sleep and I woke up. I was dazed. I was just like, I didn't even know that my son was really there, to be honest with you. A couple hours later, I came round and I was like, okay, I have a baby now. And to be honest, that was the good side of the pregnancy, to be honest with you, because after that, everything went downhill.
Let's talk about it downhill. What was it?
So, usually you go into hospital and you'd be let out maybe 1 or 2 days later. They just wouldn't let me out. They were doing my checks and they were like, oh, you can't leave, you can't go. And at this point, I'm feeling a bit under the weather, but I'm thinking this is how you're supposed to feel. So it was probably, I was in hospital from Christmas Day to January, mid-January. So I was in there for about 4 weeks. So they're doing my checks and stuff. And as the days progress, I'm starting to get fever. I'm starting to shake. I'm getting scans. They were doing ultrasound scans. They can't find anything. So they were like, you know what? Let's do a CT scan. Let's find out what's going on here. So I went in for the CT scan, and honestly, I was feeling sick, but I was still okay. I was like, okay, let's just do it. So, but I was worried. The results of the CT scan showed that I had an infection in my womb lining. So where they had opened up to take out the baby, I had got an infection somehow. I don't know how. Maybe dirty tools. I don't know what it was. I still don't know to this day. I had an infection in my womb lining. My appendix was inflamed. I had a blood clot in my ovaries, and my hemoglobin was very low. So when I came out of the CT scan, they spoke to my mum a lot because of my age as well. And they said, she's got to go back in for surgery to remove the infection out of my womb lining. I was moved up to the high dependency ward. And they started giving me blood clot thinners. They also wanted to remove my appendix, which I specifically remember saying to the people, if my appendix is fine, please leave it in me. We only suspect that it's inflamed or that I have appendicitis. But if it's not, please, please, please leave it in me. I don't want anything removed. So I went in. I remember crying. My mum was crying. Off I go to surgery. They was like, it's okay, when you wake up, you're going to be back in high dependency ward recovering. So I just remember they asked me a question. I fell asleep. I woke up. And I woke up and I just saw lights. And I just woke up in a panic. I was like, and I just started screaming, where's my mum? Where's my mum? Where's my mum? And the nurse was like, calm down, Jada. It's okay. Your mum's coming, but you're not in recovery. You're in intensive care. I looked down, had tubes coming out of my nose. I had 3 tubes coming out of my stomach, and I couldn't move. I was just almost frozen. I felt almost paralyzed because it was so painful to move. And they had let me know that it didn't go too well. I still had infection in my womb lining. My breathing wasn't too great during the surgery. I didn't have appendicitis, but they still removed my appendix, which annoyed me and still annoys me to this day, because it might be an appendix, but...
Can they just remove it without your permission like that?
Well, I signed the paper, and because I was under so much drugs, I don't even remember what that paper said, but I remember saying specifically, don't remove my appendix if it's fine. And they said, yeah, that's fine, Miss Jacob. So when I woke up and my appendix was gone, I was confused. The blood thinners, they were still working. And the last thing, what was the last thing? Okay, I needed the blood transfusion because of my hemoglobin. That's another thing that I didn't want to do. I'm not really for taking other people's organs and blood and stuff. That wasn't me before, but to save my life, because they said, you know, if you don't do this, then I don't know, you know, you could end up dying. To save my life, I said, okay, I'll take the blood transfusion. And I know there's not a lot of people in the black community that like to donate, because that's just how we are. But I'm forever thankful to the person whose blood saved my life, to be honest with you. So I came out of intensive care. I was in there for a very long time, maybe like 2 weeks. Probably the loneliest time of my life, because you're only allowed one visitor at a time between certain hours. So my baby now was taken away from me. The hospital were nice enough to offer my mum a room on a ward with my son, so that she could stay there and he could come and see me. But not only now have I just given birth to a baby, but I can't pick him up for myself. I can't breastfeed him for myself. I can't even...
on heavy medication.
Yeah, I'm on medication. I have morphine pumping. I have a central line. I don't know if you can see it anymore, but I had a central line coming out of my neck. I was just completely drugged up and sick. I couldn't eat. They were feeding me through tubes. And so, yeah, I was in there for a while, and I had some of my worst experiences in that intensive care ward. So one of the experiences, intensive care, there's a lot of sedated people, there's people opposite you, they're sick, it's a serious ward. And there was a lady who was sedated next to me, an elderly woman, and she was in my nightmares every night, running towards me, and I would just wake up in the middle of the night, just screaming, like, oh my gosh, like, it was just too much. Opposite me, there was a man. He wasn't sedated, he was awake. And I specifically asked the nurse, the midwife, please, can you close my curtains? I just want privacy. I'm bleeding. I've got tubes coming out of me. She wouldn't close the curtains. It took my nan to come and say, give the child some privacy. I'm still a child at this point, you know? And one of the worst experiences was, in order for them to move me, they had to use that thing that they hoist you from bed to chair. So they wanted me to like get mobile. So they hoisted me up, but they specifically sent out my partner at the time and my brother. They said, please leave while we do what we do. So it was two ladies, and they're hoisting me, but they're being so rough. They're pushing against me, considering I have pipes in my stomach. And I'm screaming, I'm like, help, 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 screaming. And my brother and that, they run in. They're like, they can hear me from outside. They're like, we're not staying out here no more. What's going on? And I'm like, they're hurting me, they're hurting me. And they're saying, no, she isn't, she's fine, we're fine. And I'm saying, yes, they was. But they're playing on the fact that I'm drugged up and that I'm ill to make it seem like I don't know what I'm talking about. But thankfully, they knew I wasn't lying. And surprisingly, they helped me get on the chair. My own family helped me get on the chair fine without hurting me.
Because the nurses were handling you
They were handling me so rough. They were digging in my stomach. They didn't care. They had no consideration.
Why do you think they acted that way?
I just think it goes back in history so deep. Black women, black people have always been used as a, almost a project. Something for practice, all from way back when there was practicing on us without anesthetic. So they believe that our pain hold is that we can just tolerate it, that we don't feel pain. And so I think that these things, they play out until today. And, you know, when black people come and they complain that, oh, I've got a pain in pregnancy, or, oh, you know, I'm hurting here, they're like, oh, it's okay, you're fine. But if it's a white woman now, oh, you know, they're all gentle and stuff. And I believe that that was the reason why, because they didn't think that you know, they thought I was over-exaggerating my pain. But how can you over-exaggerate pain when you have tubes coming out your nose, tubes coming out your belly? You know, you're
They
obviously
became
in
insensitive about it.
They was insensitive.
Are these personnel's black or Caucasians?
They were actually Asian. I don't know where they were, but they were maybe like Chinese or Filipino. I don't know, one of the two, but they just had no consideration. And my nan, she complained to the manager about it the next day because I told her, and the manager, I will never forget, he said this. He said, well, we're sorry, but majority of our patients are sedated, so we just treat everyone like they're sedated. It still blows my mind to this day, because not only is that just wrong, but how are you treating people's family when they're sedated and you cannot see that? You know, your family's at home.
But even when you're sedated, when the drug goes away, you still feel the pain.
You feel everything. You hear everything. So how are you treating people when their family's not there? It was awful. And to this day, I regret the fact that I never sued them, especially for that comment. But I was so young that I was just happy to be out of hospital. So yeah, that was my intensive care story. I did eventually recover and move down to high dependency, where I learned physio to learn to walk again. You know, I was learning to eat again, all these things that like a 17-year-old being in the situation. They say to you that, oh, when you go into hospital, you'll have your baby and you'll come right back out. You'll be fine. But that wasn't the case for me. It wasn't what I expected. And it was a very traumatizing experience, a very traumatizing experience.
Do you think if you hold your ground to have had a natural birth, right, you would have not gone through what you did, weren't you?
Definitely. If I had learnt my rights, learned, you know, how to have a home birth or a natural birth, even did a bit of research into black women, you know, in pregnancy, then I would have realized that actually I can do this. I have the power within me to give birth, because black women have been doing that by themselves for centuries, years. Do you know what I mean? But I didn't. And actually, I had my dad in my head telling me, you know, natural birth is the way. But again, I was in that 17-year-old mindset thinking that I know it all. And it's only until I was in that hospital bed that I realized, oh, I don't know it all, you know. And when I got down to the recovery ward, there was a lady, and she came in and she prayed for me that day, and I'll never forget. She prayed, she prayed, she prayed. I cried, I cried, I cried. And she said, I want you to go to counselling, because I believe this situation might leave you with some PTSD, a traumatic experience. And at first I was like, but I was so thankful for that lady, and she was black. She was a black lady, and I needed that. And there were so many of them. There was a lady called Roxanne. The woman that prayed for me was called Ene, I believe. And them two came by my bed every day. They checked that I was okay. They went out to the shops and bought me things. And for me, I'm so grateful that there was people of color there to understand me and understand the pain that I was going through, because without them, I don't really know where I would be, if I would still be alive.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, tell me, you came out of, you know, the intensive care, I would say. Your mom, your nan, you'd call it, met you with your baby, and then you held your baby in your hands at the age of 16 years old with what you've been through at the hospital. How did you feel?
To be honest with you, I felt quite distanced, because your first few weeks of your baby is the most important. That's your bonding time. That's where you do your breastfeeding. I wasn't doing that because of the antibiotics I was on, so I couldn't. So that bond I felt was not lost, but I didn't feel like I got to take advantage of that. So all that time that my baby was with my nan or my mum, he was doing all his bonding with them. For me, when I was just giving my baby, I was like, oh, I know he's my son, but that feeling that you get when you just have a baby, I was like, I'm gonna have to rebuild this back up, because I haven't seen him like that for the last 4 weeks. You know, even when he's there, he's just in a cot. I can't reach for him and pick him up. So I still loved him. I still knew he was mine, but my bond, it just wasn't there.
So they forcing you for a C-section took that bonding stage away from you and your child.
Yeah, I feel like it was stripped away from me, because even the first hold, when they put the baby on your chest, I was asleep. I missed that. because I was, on C-section. And then when I woke up, maybe that first week I got a bit of bonding time because I could still get up and move. But after that, when stuff went downhill, that's when everything was just stripped away from me. Intensive care, no bond. I'm seeing him for a few hours a day, and even then, that's when the bond started to, I was like, oh, like, I just had a whole baby, and I don't know, like, the feeling that I know you're supposed to feel, it's not there for me because I haven't seen him for so long, you know? I know my mum was probably getting that bond with him. I know my nan was probably getting that bond with him, but the bond that I knew that he deserved and that I deserved, it was stripped away from me. And not only that, but I forgot, they had left some placenta in me as well.
What?
They had left some placenta, and we all know that that's very dangerous. You don't leave placenta in people, but they did, and it was just swept under the carpet. I let them know, look, like, placenta had just come out of me, and they took it, and that was it. I don't even think it was on my records. I requested for my medical records. They said no. It was a time where my mum and me, we waited for the midwife to go out the room, and we was quickly scanning through the medical history just to see, like, what are they not telling us that we don't know, do you know? That they know. And just to have to, like, do that and feel like a criminal to read your own medical history, it was crazy to me. So, yeah.
This is really ugly.
Yeah, it's horrible.
Wow. And I know you might not be the only person with this kind of story. But, me looking from Ghana to a society like the UK, I expect everything to be so beautiful, well taken care of. And this is really ugly.
Yeah, and that's one of my biggest things. I've always wanted to advocate for black women in pregnancy, black women who give birth, because I don't know if I know the statistics very well, but don't quote me. I believe for like 1 in every 5 black women that give birth, 1 dies.
Really?
In the UK.
That bad?
All the time. It happens all the time. There's stories upon stories. There's a YouTuber that passed away because, she's complaining of pains, and the midwife isn't doing her due diligence to check her medical history. So she died from something that was in her family history. But they didn't even know this.
Is it that the midwives are under educated, or they don't know what they are doing?
I don't think they're educated. I believe, like, if you look at, for example, eczema, what eczema looks like. The first pictures that are going to come up is white skin. What eczema looks like on white skin. You have to search and search and search to find what eczema how it presents on black skin. And that's the problem. Just because white people, go through things this way, doesn't mean black people go through it that way. And I don't think that midwives are educated on that. I also think that it's a lack of, what's the word? Maybe they're just insensitive when it comes to black women. Again, like I said, they believe that our pain tolerance is all the way up. So, and also, I don't think there's enough black people in the NHS. There are a lot, but even some of the black people have parts to play in, some people's death, some people's, injuries, whatever. So all of that, it contributes, and I just think that all of that combined, that's what leads to it, Even things like when I was in the intensive care, my hair was matted from...
What do you mean?
Like if you just lay on your hair and it's out, and it almost becomes dreadlocks, but it was all becoming like one big one. And there was a black woman there who, she came and she cameraed my hair. And little things like that, you can't understand how grateful I was for it, because a white woman can never come and do that. How? Do you know what I mean? But there's the understanding with a black woman to black woman, that's what's needed in, birth centers, hospitals, but there's not a lot of it. And this is why black women are dying, going through crazy things, tearing, blood loss, all these mad things during childbirth when they shouldn't. Even babies are dying at the hands of some midwives that aren't educated on it. And to be honest with you, I do think that it's got a lot to do with them not being educated on how to take care of black women in pregnancy, or them just dismissing, black people's problems. If I say I'm in pain, they're like, oh, it's okay, it's fine, that's normal, until you go in and then you realize, oh, it's actually not normal. This person's actually been suffering with this or that. So that's what I believe is the problem. And I know that you can come to Ghana and there might be people here who experience the same thing. I don't think the solution is to just run to Ghana and run to black countries and hope that it's better here. I just think that we should look at the statistics, look at what's going on, and we should make a change together. So whether that means black midwives are coming together to open a birth centre where they can pay attention to black women's needs, why not? You know, there's hospitals everywhere and they take care of white women, they take care of the Chinese, they take care of the Indian, but why are black people dying at crazy rates in pregnancy?
Now, you said 4 weeks at the hospital with all this, you know, so many things they were doing on you. Did the NHS paid for everything?
So everything was free. NHS is free, so they pay for everything. But I believe that when they perform a C-section, they get more money. I've heard that, and I believe there's some kind of truth in it. So, you know, if you get someone to go into a C-section, then I don't know if your wages go up, but something happens. And I was seeing the other day that actually the rate of black women who get pushed into C-sections is way higher than white women. And, you know, I don't know why, but is it to do with it being a business? The NHS is a business. It's something to do with free healthcare. You know, it's all a business. Like, you have to think of it on a deeper level. What would these people get out of reducing the population of black people and black women? What would they get out of it? So much, you know? I don't even want to go too deep in that, but I just know that there's a bigger agenda behind this, you know? And from time it's happening and there's not much change. We speak about it, people go on the news, they talk about it, but it's still happening. That's how I know that they don't really care. This is a business, this is working out for them, you know? So yeah.
Wow. So let's fast forward a little bit. You're still 16 years old, you have a child. According to the story, the child's father is not in the picture so often. How did you know, handle this matter?
So it's weird because the day that I gave birth, I found out that he was cheating on me in my hospital bed. So that already was like telling my mind that, well, actually, I think this is over, I think it's done. But still, I stuck with him because I was afraid of being a single mother.
And being alone.
Yeah, and being alone and having to do it all alone. So I stuck through. I sat through so much toxic rubbish just because I was afraid of what people would think of me. Oh, look, she's had a child and she didn't even last with him. And so I was just getting by. As, you know, time went on, I started to build that bond back up with my son. And he taught me things that I needed to be taught. He taught me so much maturity. Just, they say, you know, having a child changes your life. It really did, because I had to do a lot of growing up at 17, a lot of growing up, going to appointments. I moved out at 17 at my mum's house. I went back when I got pregnant, I moved out again. And I wanted to do that for myself because I wanted to fully take on the responsibility of being a mum. I don't want to have to rely on people. So I started paying my rent, I started looking after my child, I started having to, you know, buy his milk and all of that myself without any support. And that teaches you a lot, it does. And it also, you know, you go through rough times together, you get closer together. And that's literally what happened with me and my son. The things that we went through together, he taught me, I taught him. And, you know, it was a positive outcome in the end, along with the counselling that I was doing to help me get over what had just happened, because I was still having nightmares when I came out of the hospital. But, you know, it was good. And I was just glad that I had built up that bond back with him, because I never thought I would be able to be honest with you, because they tell you that those first few weeks are the most important. But I was able to, and yeah, that's it really.
Wow. Now let's fast forward a little bit. You know, you had your child, you know, 2, 3 years old, 4 years old. At what point on this journey did you met your now husband, and how? I mean, I know you met on Tinder,
Yeah.
but prior 2 years, a year before that moment, can you know, speak on that a little bit?
Yeah, I was just kind of getting by in life. I went back to college to finish my studies. You know, him being a little bit older now, because I had been a little bit older now, I I was able to just like maybe put him in childcare and be able to just go and complete that stage of my life that I never thought I could complete. And also I was coming into a stage where I started to understand my value, my worth. I was still in a toxic situation and I had family members telling me, get out of this, Jada, you're not happy. And that's when my mind started to get clearer and clearer every day. I met people, friends along my journey who, you know, just told me like, they can see that I wasn't happy. And so then coming out of that, I knew exactly what I wanted. When I came out of that relationship, when me and Kay met, he'll tell you like, the kind of questions that we was asking each other was like, so what do you want to do with your life? Like, you don't go on a date and you're like, oh, you know, what do you want to do with it? You're like, oh, how are you? But we was like, what do you want to do with your life? Are you in this for the long run? That kind of vibe, because I knew exactly what I wanted and I wasn't budging on that. I wasn't budging on my standards. And I really do feel like it was the Most High that put him in my vision, because I send people to go on Tinder all the time now and they're like, it's rubbish, Jada. I don't know how you found Kay, but I just feel like there was no other way we was gonna meet. So he had to be on Tinder for me to have to go on Tinder for us to meet. And then about maybe a year and a bit into our relationship, I was pregnant again. So yeah.
For your second child.
Yeah.
Well, you know, and then after you guys, you know, had how many years after that did you decide to come to Africa?
About 3 years in. 3 years in. So last year I think was 3 years, or no, about May this year was 3 years. So we moved in April.
Wow.
So it was very soon. It was very soon.
Wow.
But when we met, there was so much similarity, so much in common. All my family members will tell you, oh, okay, he's just like your dad. He's just like your dad. In the beginning, I was like, how? What, just because they both do music? But no, their values, what they want to do with their life, things like going back to Ghana. There's not a lot of people that you meet that's like, I'm picking up my life to go to Ghana. But Kay was like, yeah, let's do this. And so that's how it happens.
Now, this is, you know, looking at you guys is beautiful, you know, to the point where, you know, you're beautiful, you know, your second kid, you know, together, deciding to leave the UK behind with all this trauma, maltreating, racism, the experience, even your child being in school and being called a monkey at one point, or even someone said she's don't want to be friends with him because he's not white. Yeah. All that things leaving behind and starting a new, you know, it's very beautiful story. Now me looking at what you've been through there, right? And I know you're not the only person going through this. I know so many people are watching this show right now who are actually maybe there or know someone who's there, right? With all this, what would you say to someone at that moment, you know, in a moment like that?
Someone who's going through...
Exactly.
Okay. I would say to know your rights. I think that's one of the most important things. Know what you're entitled to. Know that when midwives are telling you that you have to do this and you have to do that, go into the room so that you know what you have to do and no one can tell you. Know that you're allowed to question, you know, people when they're telling you that you have to go in C-sections. Know that you can say no, you know. Pick your birth partner wisely. Have someone there that's going to advocate for you. Kay, he advocated for me. We went through this all the time. We wrote a birth plan, write a birth plan. All these things really contributed to me having a great birth after. The people at the hospital said to me, I don't think you'll be able to have a natural birth. I said to them, I know I will, you know? And I went in, I wrote my birth plan, I knew my rights, I made sure my birth partner knew how to advocate for me, knew what I wanted and what I didn't, even when I was maybe dazed by the pain or by painkillers, and it was perfect. And that's my advice to every single black woman who, you know, wants to get pregnant and go to a hospital. Know your rights. And if you can, try and have a home birth. I've never done it before, so I'm not going to be a hypocrite and say you have to. But if you can have a natural birth at that, that would be my best advice to you, because these people, we put so much trust in the NHS, in the white midwives to know our bodies and know ourselves, but no one knows us more than us. That's it. When you know you've got a pain, follow it up. Don't leave that hospital until you get an answer, you know? And these are the things that can be done to prevent, you know, deaths and injuries. And for any white midwives or any other midwives of any other race that is listening, don't treat black women as if there's something different. Treat them as if you would treat any other white woman coming into hospital, because having that on your hands, that you could be the cause of someone's death, that's not something you want to carry for the rest of your life. We're human at the end of the day. We're not back in whatever year where people are operating on black women without anesthetic and stuff. We're in 2023 and change has to come. It has to come. Otherwise, we're going to see a lot more black women lose their life to childbirth when new life should come from that, not death, you know? So that would be my message, to just know your rights, do your research before you go into a hospital and you decide you want to give birth there, because hospitals in 2023, they're not the greatest thing. And don't put all your trust in the NHS. They're a business, you know, that's it.
They don't care about you.
They don't care about you. They never will. That's why I'm like, do your research.
Will you say you having a man on your side during your second childbirth made it the process a little seamless and less hectic compared to the first one?
Most definitely. When Kay knew that I was pregnant, he was so attentive. He cared so much. He knew what I had been through before, and he was so determined to not let that happen again. And even stages where I was like, oh, can I do this? He was like, Jada, you can do this. He was doing research. We learned hypnobirthing, which is like your breathing and stuff like that. And there was times where I was in too much pain that I was like, oh, I can't even remember. He's like, Jada, breathe in, out, all these things. I'm telling you, it led to such a smooth birth. I was able to push Yimi out naturally. And that was all I wanted. And it made such a difference. It made such a difference. That's why I say birth partners, like, it can be a woman as well. It doesn't have to be a man, but whoever you pick, just let it be someone who can advocate, someone who's done their research, because it's only going to be you who suffers, if not, you know. So
now, with what you've been through, I know you definitely don't want any other black woman to go through. You know, what are you doing in your own little bubble to help prevent things like this from happening in the near future?
Well, I try my best whenever, you know, I run into black women who are pregnant or have friends that are pregnant to spread that knowledge, encourage positive stories. You know, we hear a lot of negatives, but I have a positive story to share as well. And so I always do my best to share that and let people know that, oh, well, look what I went through, but look how I ended up. And I've always wanted to advocate for black women in pregnancy, but I've never had really a platform or people to really share that with. But it's always been a dream of mine to do so. And so for me, you know, if anyone ever has questions, worries about pregnancy, trying to know their rights or help writing a birth plan, that is what I'm doing. I'm helping people get to that point so that everyone can have smooth pregnancies, you know, and I'm encouraging, you know, us being here and starting villages and stuff, I'm encouraging black midwives, black nurses, not just for pregnancy, for everything, to come together. Let's start something together so that, you know, we can have a safe space for black women to go, black men to go and get proper healthcare without the worries of, am I gonna die? Because what black woman wants to go through that, get pregnant and wonder whether they're gonna die? That's a horrible feeling.
Wow. With this advanced society, so-called developed nation, and you going through this, my mind is taking a bit more time to you know, process that. You know, do you think we can be able to create that kind of safe space, that environment for childbirth to be more, you know, less stressful in Ghana?
Definitely. I feel like Ghana has the space for it. You know, it's a majority black country, so there's no better place other than that for it. In the UK, waiting for that to happen, I don't think it's ever going to happen. Try and go and pitch to someone in the UK that you want to open an all-black birth centre, as if, you know, they're going to tell you why. But you can have Jewish schools, you can have all Muslim schools. But if you want to have an all-black school, it's a problem. Do you know what I mean? So me personally, I believe it can happen. I don't see no reason why. I just think that's the next step. I don't think we should waste any time debating it. I think we should do it. You know, there's so much people coming in floods with skills. Let's apply them, you know, because I've heard about some stories here where people are also passing away during childbirth. That should never happen. It should never happen, you know, even if everyone does their due diligence as a woman to just go and research how to be a doula or do your basic research on your rights and all these things, then I feel like we can all help each other. I'm not a nurse, but I'll do my part to help other people. So
we've been indoctrinated to believe that this sophisticated scientific machines at the hospital is going to help us, but it tends to do the opposite of that. I've grown up, I've had less childbirth situation when our mothers were giving birth using is it a doula and all those local way at home, compared to this hospital things. Do you think it's doing us a disjustice, you think, the hospital system?
Doing
a disjustice?
Yes,
instead
definitely.
of justice to childbirth.
Definitely, it's definitely a disjustice. Like,
and it's the whole world. It's not just the UK.
Yeah,
you said in Ghana too.
It's
so
everywhere.
Are you advocating for people to start having home birth and stuff like that?
Yes, definitely. I'd say if you can just have a home birth or a natural birth, that's the way. Try not to get interventions. People have been given birth by themselves. I think it was the Himba tribe I was watching, and they go off by themselves. They give birth. You can't even hear a sound, a peep. They just push out their baby and they're fine. If they can do it, why can't we? You know, black women been doing this for years, but we started putting our trust in the NHS and other medical systems that don't care about us and have proven over the years and time again that they don't. But yet we still go back, we still do it. And if you want to go to the hospital, because I know that some people, they want that, you know, security, you know, that safety net, just in case something happens. Advocate for a natural pregnancy. All this interventions, putting antibiotics in and all these things to speed up the process of your child coming out. When does that even make sense? You know, babies come out when they want to come out. Some babies come out at 42 weeks, way past the due date, but it's not a bad thing, you know? So yeah.
Now fast forward, you know, you said something in our last podcast, hopefully this video comes after that, where you said back in the UK, you were worried of what to eat. But now you've moved to Ghana here, there's not a day that goes by that you're worried about what to eat the next day. You know, and me hearing that is really, it's encouraging, it's inspirational, right? You've left all that behind in the UK, you've moved here, you've bought land, you're building with your family now. Walk us through that process of transition and even acquiring this for yourself. And I know you would like to have other people do the same too.
Don't eat it, you need play. So, basically everyone, this is the foundation. It's a 2-bedroom bottom, but we do plan to go up. So we're gonna do the concrete and the flow straight away. We're not even gonna waste time, we're just gonna go up. Yeah, so much. I think in the last podcast like you spoke about, we spoke about health. I think that's one of the biggest things in life, health over everything. Forget wealth, health. You know, what good is your wealth or your money or whatever if you don't have good health? The UK, not only are they killing us in the hospitals through childbirth, but through our food, you know, through social media. People are just killing themselves because of what they're seeing. I'm not saying that everyone has to pick up themselves and come to Ghana, but I do think as black people, we know deep down what's good for us, you know, and it's time that we just start doing what's good for us and for our children, if not for you, for your children. Yes, I came to Ghana because I love Ghana and it's amazing and all these crazy things, but my children was the biggest trigger for me because I wanted them to have a life where they didn't have to worry about eating the wrong foods, being able to pick their health from the trees themselves, you know, going to deep in the village and they're giving you, medical remedies through fruit and plants, things that is not even common knowledge in the UK. I think that is the real health, that is the real wealth, and I think that's what we should be doing. And even if you're not gonna move to Ghana and do it, start educating yourself there. But it's so hard because you pick up a fruit off the tree in the UK, it's GMO, it's not even natural. So, you know, I would just encourage everyone to really think about that and think about your children, you know, and their grandchildren and how that move can affect your whole line, you know.
Will you say you leaving all these Western things behind has been worth it so far? I know you moved not so long ago, but would you say it's still been worth it for you? It's
been worth it. It's been more than worth it. To see my children be happy, smile, run around and be free and learn while doing it, I don't think there's any better feeling. I ask my son all the time, do you want to go back to the UK? He's like, no. He does not want to go back. We will go back one day to visit my family and stuff, but to pick him up and take him back into that environment, forever. It will never happen. This journey has been so worth it. And for me, what it's done for my confidence, to walk around and see women who look like me. I never used to leave the house without makeup and stuff. I know I got it on today, but I walk all around Ghana without makeup and I feel confident. I feel beautiful because I have reflections of myself that look like me. Sometimes in the UK, I might trigger some people here, but everyone's got wigs on, you know, everyone's got plastic this and BBLs and all of that. It starts to get to your head. It starts to make you think, oh, what am I doing wrong, you know? And after a while, it plays on your mind. So to be here, to be surrounded by natural beauty, not to say there's none in the UK, but what they're pushing on our young girls, and it's detrimental, I think, you know? And some people don't want to admit that, but a 16-year-old me was looking up to some people, the likes of Nicki Minaj and all these people.
Really?
Yeah. And this is, you know, I was never a barb, but these are the people that they put in your face. Do you realize that it's not very often that you see black women on TV speaking for the better good of our people? You know, in our music, everyone's twerking, everyone's doing this. You got the Ice Spices, and this is who the young generation are looking up to. But where is the balance? Where is the opposite end? They're there, but they don't put them in your face. And that's the problem that I have, because this is where people end up on my route and end up pregnant at 16, you know?
Some advice to someone at that age, watching right now, who might be at where you were 16 years. 16 years.
Know who you are as a young black woman, young black girl. Know who you are deep down. And if you don't, please do your research. I know that it might be boring or sound boring, but if there's one thing I could have done back then is I will go and research who I was. I found out who I was about 3 years ago when I met Kay, and he started teaching me my history and letting me know where we came from. It shouldn't have taken me that long. If I could go back in time, I would do all my research for myself. I would know who I am, and I wouldn't be so easily influenced by other people. I would be myself, you know.
Knowing who you are, you mean like your heritage? As
my heritage,
okay.
History, where we came from, and just all of those things combined. I feel like there's a lot of people out there like that stand in themselves, stand in their confidence. But unfortunately, majority of the young girls today are influenced by TikTok, Instagram, all these other people.
So people are losing their children to TikTok nowadays?
All the time, all the time. I read an article that in China, the children that are on TikTok, they're pushing, you know, mathematical things, all educational stuff at them. But the 13-year-olds and under in the UK that are on TikTok, they're pushing a bunch of depressing stuff. All these crazy things that are making children commit suicide, think that they're not okay in who they are. I think that's very detrimental. And from time we have the article out there to prove it, why are we ignoring it? Me personally, if I could go back in time, I would never have accepted a phone so young, because that's when the problem started. That's when I started comparing myself to other people and thinking, like, what can I do to change myself to, you know? That's not the way forward. If we're going to do that, let's be in control of what our children are watching and seeing for themselves.
But then your children would hate you for taking that from them.
They'll thank me later. They'll thank me later. All the discipline that my mom and my dad put me through, I'm grateful. Back then, I was like, oh. But now, it's made me who I am today, to be able to have this mindset and pass it on to other people. I say it to my little sister, all my little sisters, you are so special in who you are, you know? And as long as you remember that, no one can try you, no one can turn you away from who you are. That's it. But unfortunately, the West, they're working very hard to make children, you know, forget who they are, take them away from their roots. So
now, one of the comments that stood out was, how are you able to have 2 children at this young age and not married? Someone like that. Someone said this in the comment section. What would you say to that?
Well, the first thing I would say is that marriage as we know it at the moment, white wedding, in the church, all these things, that is not what marriage is. That is what the white man has made it. So we have to stop putting so much pressure on people to go and do that in order to be married. Me and Kay's union, that's between us and the Most High. And we know what plans we have for each other. Obviously, I can't get down on one knee myself. You know what I mean? Well, I could, but that's not the way I want it. But I just think we should stop putting pressure on people and focus on our own lives, to be honest with you. And even when that moment happens, if you don't see me in a white wedding dress, you don't see me walking down the aisle in a church, mind your business. That is not what marriage has been for. That's what marriage has been for so long, but it's not what marriage is. Marriage is meant to be a union between you and the Most High. That's it. And that's what it might be for us. It might be something really small, just with our children and someone to bless the union. That's it. But at the end of the day, things happen. There's plenty of people who have children that aren't married. And I just think that, you know, it's one of those things where me and Kay, we already feel like we're married. We know where we're going for the long term. We know what our plans are. And that's why we've not put pressure on ourselves to do that, because if we do, Kay's Nigerian. Those weddings cost a lot, you know, those traditional marriages. So we're not putting no pressure on ourselves to have that label. We know what we have and we're happy with that. So that's it.
I like that. I like that. Now, I guess the person who commented this, you have your answer. This is a wonderful story.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for sharing your story with me and then my audience.
Thank you for giving me the platform to be able to. I really appreciate it.
The pleasure is mine. If you do have a final message, what would that message be?
Oh, I feel like I've given a lot now. Let me think. Okay, so back on the pregnancy story, again, know your rights. That'll be my last message for that. And for the young Black children, not just women, know yourself, you know, believe in yourself. You are capable of doing anything you put your mind to. And don't let social media and other people put you down. Teachers letting you know that you're not good enough, you'll never make anything of your life. They're lying, you know. They know the power within you. That's why it's their job to try and take it away from you. But you're better than that, man. So
how do people find you?
You can find me at BK to Africa on YouTube, Instagram. If you want to reach out to me personally for any like childbirth advice, you can find me at Jada Jacob _ on Instagram. Anyways, you can get through to me through those social media tags, and that's it.
All right, thank you so much for talking to me.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, guys, this is an amazing story, inspirational. It's deep, emotional, and I hope it inspires you. Share the video if you like it, comment down, let's get the engagement going, like the video, and subscribe and stay tuned for more inspirational videos like this. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. It's been a wonderful one. Let's say bye-bye to them. All right, bye-bye. Peace out.
Hi everyone, my name's Jada. I'm 23 years old and I recently moved back to Ghana with my 2 children and my partner back in April 2023. And we currently are documenting our journey on YouTube and all other platforms, and you can find us at Back to Africa. If you're watching me on Webnation at the moment, hit subscribe, like and comment. All the engagement helps. We appreciate it. Catch you soon.